Great leaders believe passionately in absolute integrity. They never compromise it. Success Magazine ran a study years ago. They interviewed 30,000 frontline employees from every conceivable profession and industry. They asked them, what quality do you most value in a boss? There was only one quality that appeared at number 1 or number 2 on every single one of the 30,000 surveys. It was integrity. People want to work for a boss that they know can be trusted, is an honorable man or woman. I have a thesis. It is this: every violation of my integrity ultimately makes me a less happy person. Every lie that I tell, every underreported dollar on my income tax return, every overreported dollar on an expense invoice, every dirty, underhanded deed in which I engage, I believe ultimately makes me a less happy person. Do you know why? Because anytime I do something like that, I wind up liking and respecting myself just a bit less. And over the course of the years, the cumulative weight of all of the memories of the things that you've done that you do not respect about yourself becomes a very heavy load to bear. It is just not worth it. Let me give you an illustration of what I mean. This little towel has brought a measure of pain into my life. Do you know why? I ripped it off. I'm not proud of it, but it's true. I invented that routine with the milk that you saw earlier about 10 years ago, and I discovered that as I performed it on stage, it always got my hands wet. So I started making it my practice to take a little hand towel like this out of my hotel room, keep it on stage to dry my hands with, and then after the show, dutifully return it to my hotel. There were times I had to drive miles out of my way to return one little towel, but I did it every single solitary time except one. This one. I had just finished performing at a big hotel in Florida, if memory serves me correctly, and I was packing up in a hurry so I wouldn't miss my flight. My milk pitcher was still wet, and I didn't want to put it in my suitcase damp, so I rationalized. I said to myself, this hotel has hundreds of towels. They couldn't possibly miss just one. Besides, the people that run these hotels are pretty smart cookies, and I'll bet every January 1st they run some sort of a complex algorithm to predict exactly how many towels will be stolen that year. And they build that right into the room rate. And because I've stayed at hundreds of hotels and never stolen even one towel, they owe me a few. At that particular moment in time, that flimsy line of reasoning was sufficient, and so I wrapped up my milk pitcher in this little towel, tucked it in my suitcase, and flew away. And now, every time I perform, I open my Foot Locker to set up, and I see this little towel. And I keep it there for this very reason. A tiny wave of sadness sweeps over me as once again I come face to face with irrefutable proof that I'm the type of man that under the right circumstances would sell his soul for a used hand towel. It's just not worth it. I like to compare man's search for happiness to a trip in a small boat. When I'm a little boy, I think if I can make mommy happy, that'll float my boat. And when I'm in elementary school, I think if I had the hottest bicycle on the block, that would float my boat. And I go off to middle school, and I think if I could make the football team or the cheerleading squad, that would float my boat. And then I go to high school and think if I could date the right person, that would float my boat. Then I go to college and I think if I could make Dean's List, that would float my boat. And then I graduate and think if I could marry the right person, that would float my boat. And after I've been married a while, I start thinking if I could hear the pitter-pat of little feet around my house, that would float my boat. And what you discover is that not only do kids not float your boat, they drill holes in your boat. I'm being facetious about that, but that's the problem with a lack of integrity. The reason that I am tempted every April 15th to underreport my income to the IRS is because I reason this way. If I create a few fictitious deductions, I'll get to keep an extra $1,200 this year, and that will float my boat. And it does. But it also drills a little hole in the hull. And long after the $1,200 have been spent, I still have the hole in my soul to contend with. And over the course of my lifetime, I am either developing a boat, the integrity, there's that word, the integrity of which is still intact, or I'm developing a sieve. And if it's the latter, I arrive in my old age as a bitter old man or woman. And I spend what should have been my golden years frantically trying to bail myself out of all of the messes I've created through my own lack of integrity. It's just not worth it. But if, on the other hand, I arrive in my old age with the hull of my boat still having its integrity intact, I'm prepared to sail smooth seas into a golden sunset. One of the great little serendipities of life is this. Not only is integrity the right thing to do, not only does it make you a better boss, it's also profitable. A study back in 2006 concluded that the companies in America that are judged as the most ethical by the American population over a period of 5 years were 370% more profitable than all of their other counterparts in the S&P 500. Almost 4 times as much profit for the companies that are deemed the most ethical. That's nothing to sneeze at.